Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to this podcast. This is David Valenzuela with I Wish. I am so happy that you're here. Thank you so much, you guys. If you're watching on YouTube, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment, make a comment down below. Say what you want to see in a future episode. Tell me where you're from. Just give us a little thumbs up. We would appreciate it. So I'm super excited today. I wish that I could have Hannah Nelson of HN Skin Solutions. You guys are going to love all things Hannah. We are going to talk about where she went to school. We're going to talk about diet. We're going to talk about sunscreen. We're going to talk about treating acne, and you're going to love her accent. So buckle up, you guys. This is going to be a great episode. We crossed the pond to have an interview with Hannah Nelson of HN Skin Solutions. Hannah, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. So you guys, it's of course we're in like 3-4 time zones away. So it's actually 5 p.m. where Hannah is today and 9 a.m. California time. So we make it work. And thank you for giving us your time. So Hannah, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you actually, what was your initial interest in getting involved in aesthetics?
Yeah, so it kind of previous to where I am right now with the skin clinic, I was actually in property. I was in a completely different industry, completely different job. And I always had such a passion for skin because I've been on Roaccutane twice now. I think my last dose would have been about 7 years ago. So I've always kind of struggled and battled internally with my skin, but I almost, whilst I was at work doing my previous job, I almost parked the thought of becoming an esthetician because I thought, well, I'm. It sounds crazy because I'm only 26, but I used to think I'm just too old to start it now. I'm not going back to college. I'm not going back to learning. Um, However, how it works over here is you have to do it privately. You can't like then go back to school and do it that way. So I trained privately after that, and kind of started where I am. But I would say in terms of what sparked my interest was obviously my own skin, which I know you'll commonly hear anyways because this is kind of your podcast and you get loads of acne estheticians on here. But my skin was emotionally draining me. And I know that a lot of it's to do with appearance, but I think it got to the point where I wouldn't even leave the house. So I thought I need to fix this myself because the doctor's routes just weren't working. I mean, the Roaccutane worked initially, but it would always come back. And to be honest, it felt like it was getting worse. As I was getting older. So I always think if you want something done right, you should fix it yourself. So that's where I kind of went into it. I thought I've got to fix this myself. Knowing that other people must be in this position because it does feel very lonely when you have acne. I feel like you always feel like when you meet your friends that you're the only one struggling. So it's kind of a lonely world. So it was kind of a bit of a jump for me to jump from such a successful job in property development to going into aesthetics and taking that plunge and being self-employed. But I feel like it's kind of worked out for the best, and hopefully my own skin stays stable now forever. So
Yes.
yeah.
So tell me, so this is, you're right. There's a lot of estheticians that come to aesthetics because of their own personal experience. And whether that be they had terrible acne in a teenager, adolescent acne, excuse me, or they develop it later in life, they find their way to like, okay, I've already done these traditional methods. There's got to be other people out there struggling. How old were you when acne first started?
14. So I was really young.
14.
14. And I would say that was consistent until I was 25. Um, yeah, it was a really funny. I typically didn't present the same way as a lot of my peers did, which is, kind of your cystic acne on your cheeks and jawline. For some reason, I really got it on my forehead and in my nose, which now has never been the problem. So I feel like I used to always fix one area and then another area would start playing up. Um, so weirdly enough, I did struggle on and off at 14, but it's never been a stubborn area. It's kind of been across all different areas of my skin. Um, so yeah, a long time, a long time.
How old were you the first time that you did some sort of medical intervention?
Um, I think I was 20 because I just didn't know there was a medical intervention available because I think a lot of people are in the same boat where they go to the doctors and because it's kind of under the cosmetic remit for some reason in the doctors. Obviously over here we have the National Health Service, so you're not really a priority if you struggle with skin conditions. It's kind of more people that are on more life-threatening illnesses that are prioritized. So if
Yes.
you go to the doctors and say, look, I don't feel confident in myself anymore with this condition, they kind of feel a bit like, well, that's not really, it's not threatening to your life, therefore it's not of our interest. So it wasn't till I was about 20, because I'd been there for so many years back and forward, saying that I need something to help, that they finally prescribed me something. So a long time.
I mean, it's incredible that so when you first went, so yes, I hear a lot about on the news about the NHS and people are complaining about, I know, all around the world, right? Every country has their own issues.
Yes.
Was Accutane the first line of defense, or did you go through any of sort of antibiotics or anything else that you were given first?
I was prescribed topical retinoids to start, um, but our GPs here, so our general practitioners who prescribe me that, they have no, they have like a general overview of health rather than specific to dermatology. So he prescribed me that, but never told me I needed to use sunscreen or anything that even how I was supposed to apply it. So I remember at the time I cleansed my skin, I put on this topical retinoid, which I've been tretinoin, and I left it on for, I think it was 3 hours, and then I would do another load, and then another 3 hours, and I'd do another load. I never wore sunscreen because I never knew anything about it because I just wasn't in the field. And
Yeah.
you know, it's great now. If someone said that to me, I would be wounded. But yeah, I got topical retinoid. They then prescribed antibiotics, which, as we kind of know, after so many months of those and coming off it doesn't really help much. And then I think it wasn't until I was 21, so full year of the process, that I went on to Roactin. I think it might have been earlier, but yeah, then I went on Roactin. But again, I think, I mean, every country has their problems, obviously, but our National Health Service, I didn't really like have blood tests or anything like that. I wasn't really monitored during that process. The same with pregnancy tests and things like that. I wasn't monitored the way I probably should have been either. So yeah, it was a bit of an up and down journey, and a very lonely journey at that as well.
Yeah, that's great. So the thing that so similar to what you just said about the GPs having, they have a broad overview of human health, right? The body's very complex. There's a lot of things to learn. Dermatology just being one of those aspects, and because we're hyper focused in one area specifically, I find that our practitioners tend to be more educated around all things acne. That's one of the goals of Wish Skin Health, is to really make sure that people understand the medications, the journey. A lot of estheticians obviously have been on the journey themselves, which gives you a better, more empathetic approach to your clients because you understand that you've lived it. The thing that I think is probably the most eye-opening, and where I start to get in some heated conversations with dermatologists, I love them. I'm like, let's have a conversation, it's fine. But the approach to treating acne with a topical retinoid, an antibiotic. There's a lot of spironolactone prescriptions in the US to suppress hormones in women, or Accutane, is that they're all just covering one aspect of acne. It's not addressing the whole totality of cell shedding and oil production and bacteria and inflammation. It's just one aspect of acne. And the challenge that we have in the US specifically is people love symptomatic treatment. Go to the doctor, this is my issue, I get a pill or a cream, something topical. But generally within 90 days of somebody when they're finished with their medication, whether it's their first round of Accutane, antibiotics, whatever it is, usually in about 90 days, when oil starts coming back, their acne starts coming back, the bacteria starts re-regulating, their acne starts coming back, and they start looking for other solutions. And this is when I was talking to Marie last night, I was like, this is the number one. We're so undereducated in all things acne in this space. So undereducated. And yet I don't know what the number is in the UK. I know that it ranks number one in the US. It's eighth globally. I don't know what it is specifically for your country, but I would venture to say it's probably up there with people having like a high predominance for acne. It's just crazy. So if you're an esthetician, you're listening to this, it just means that there's opportunity for you around education, all those things. So you were doing property development stuff before you got into aesthetics, which I love that.
Yes.
Will you explain the process, Hannah, of what it actually looks like? So you've got another career. You're like, I got to get fix my skin. Am I too old to do this? Which people often think, oh my God, am I too old to do this? You're never too old. If you're passionate about it, like go for it. But tell us the process so in the US, we don't have any reciprocity. So depending on the state that you live in, there's programs vary from like 300 plus hours, 600 hours, 1200 hours, depending on where you go to school. So give us a little insight into your schooling and how long it took and all that fun stuff.
So you're going to be probably shocked because a lot of people are. The UK is unregulated when it comes to skin. We have only last week become regulated in aesthetics, where things like injectables such as Botox has to be from a prescriber. That has only just happened last week.
Wow.
So we are unregulated. I could literally go and do a day course in a bigger city tomorrow and I could inject Botox the next day. So we are very, yeah, I know, it's
Wow.
terrible. But I think a young mum passed away unfortunately after some cosmetic treatment, and that's really kicked us into getting a regulation in there. But it's a big problem at the moment because the aesthetic space obviously has happened last week, which means it's good news for me because I have government recognised qualifications. However, that stopgap between aesthetics and skin getting regulated, I think we'll see a lot more people transitioning out of aesthetics now that it's become regulated into the skin space because it's regulated. And I'm going
Yeah.
off top of where I train, but a bit of background. So coming out of what I did, I found a privately funded course down in Liverpool, and you had to do your online theory training, which is like live webinars, case studies, things like that, of a certain amount of hours. I can't remember how many hours it actually was off the top of my head. And then you had to travel down to Liverpool to do your exam, and I think we did three theory exams and a number of practical students where an examiner comes in and obviously examines you while you do that. But that is, I would say, probably 1% of the people that are doing skin in the UK right now probably have that qualification. The other
Wow.
99% just go on a day course in a day. And obviously, you know yourself, you can't. Like, I think a lot of the skin issues are missed because they focus so much on the practical element when you're there. This is how you would conduct a chemical peel, this is how you conduct a facial. But there's no time for theory. There's no time to discuss, well, why are you doing that? Or what would you do for this client? How do you assess what that client really needs? That isn't really covered. It's the practical element to be able to say, I know how to apply it now. Now I'm going to go and apply it, and now I'm going to go make my business. So yeah, there's good qualifications out there. And obviously, there's a lot of people at the moment that aren't regulated, but I think hopefully that'll come into the UK space. Fingers crossed.
I mean,
So
it's crazy. So we've had moments in the US where different states go up for deregulation, just
mhm.
deregulating everything. And it's usually the legislators, they don't even understand actually what hairdressers, estheticians, like chemical acids, being applied to the face, around the eyes, like understanding like you could really hurt somebody. We did have some regulation in the US recently that just changed in Texas, actually. So the way that the laws were written, basically estheticians could inject, which there's no training in the US where estheticians are taught how to inject anything. So the fact that it was in the scope was kind of freakish. Like you could go to a Allergan conference or something and learn how to, like, that's just scary. You should really have a little more medical qualification for that. But I actually, Carolyn Hirons, correct? Do you know
yes,
who Carolyn Hirons is? Okay, so she's funny
yeah,
because we both worked for Aveda at the beginning of our career. So like I listened to her stuff and I'm like, and I heard her having this conversation about that person that passed away and that they were talking about the need to have more regulation around it. And it offers more value, obviously, to the aesthetic space when it's regulated. It needs to be regulated. Somebody needs to have regulation on top of like what's just going. It can't just be everybody's doing what they want. I had an interview with Katie Marshall in Canada. It's been about a year now, and they deregulated aesthetics in the early 2000s. So they have, I'm not going to remember exactly what it's called, but there's basically like formal qualified training. So you could be a formally trained chef or a formally trained esthetician that you can carry this seal of approval almost that says I went and I actually have this qualification, but it wasn't
Right,
required to perform the function. I'm like,
right.
well, there's all of those fun things. And
It's a really odd space. But just picking up what you said there about injectables, I get a lot of clients in clinic or even other professionals that ask, you don't offer skin boosters. And I'm like, no, I don't inject. And
yes,
that's a big thing in my area. I think almost all of the skin specialists will offer injectable skin boosters, which I don't because I don't inject. But one of the other companies I work with, one of their ethos is we will not supply to estheticians that are injected and aren't qualified or have a medical background. But yeah, I think it's such a crazy space that is a thing. I can't imagine somebody going into anaphylaxis in the treatment room. I'm not medically trained to deal with it. So,
that is the issue right then and there. Like, what do you do? Adverse reaction. My sister is a nurse in Utah here in the States, and I've told her so many times, like, Amy, when are you going to go and like learn how to do injectables? And she's like, all the nerves in the face. She's like, I'm freaked out. People can be paralyzed. Like, I don't want to be responsible for this. She's a pediatric nurse, so she deals with babies, and she's like, I'm not interested in that. I'm like, come on. I'm like, one day when my forehead is like this, I'm like, we're going to need to, it's all good. So how long ago did you open your clinic?
it'll be coming up 2 years now. Got 2 years.
Of that. So talk to us a little bit about Hannah, how you started so this is the thing trending in the United States is the solo practitioner. So back in the
Okay.
day, like I've been around for a long time, we used to have like what we call them day spas, and like people there'd be like 6 treatment rooms and 12 estheticians work there. And there's been this big push for a lot of independent solo practitioners. And one of the things that there's a commonality is everybody's trying to figure out what the magic code to getting their first book of business. So when you open your business, how did you go about starting to find clients?
So, when I first started the business, obviously I've never run a business before. I've always been employed, and I can't say my parents because I think everybody has this with their parents. Were entirely happy that I was leaving such a successful career to venture out into this space.
Yeah.
Um, so there was definitely massive nerves around starting the business, and I am in a small city. I would definitely say what started kind of where I started was I put a lot of effort into free things that are available for me. So I see a lot of people that have other businesses, like one of my friends is a massage specialist, and she speaks to me about social media. I'm like, well, go and you can do a free social media course online from an influencer. They're free,
Yes.
and you just have
Yeah.
to sit for an hour and make notes. I don't think there was like a turnkey moment where I thought this has really worked for me. I think it was a combination of everything and really trying my best. I printed leaflets and I would walk around with leaflets all day. I do loads of social media courses and putting yourself out there. There's always going to be people that are going to judge you for whatever you're going to do, but you have to just stand by your business and do the best you can with what you have. Um, I couldn't be more grateful for the position that I'm in at the moment. I'm completely full for the next 2 months. I can't take any other new clients on. But I think also there is definitely um, credit in niching down because you can't be this everything to somebody. And I
Yes.
think kind of a gap in my area for acne. So to me, that just seemed more fitting to me anyways as an individual. And that was what I decided to focus on. So you need to find your niche and find what works for you. And you will attract the clients you want to work with because there isn't really any longevity in non-repeating clients. You need repeating clients. And in order to have that, you need to build foundation, you need to build trust, you need to build all that sort of stuff. And you need to, when a client walks through the door, you need to make sure that you have done your absolute best from the moment they walk in. Because you've probably been there yourself where you've gone for something or some form of treatment and you've thought, well, the service could have been a little bit better, or and putting those blockages in places is going to stop that repeat business. Repeat is the key. And investing in your time, your money, everything has to be 100%, and you will get there if you put 100% in.
Yes, I love it. So I just want to say you need some cheering right now for everybody that is. We're going to have a little moment here of cheering for literally being booked out 2 months in advance. That's an accolade to you for being in your business for this period of time and understanding a niche. This is I talk about it all the time, and it's something, Hannah, that's really close to my heart because this is how I was brought into the industry, to really focus on something that you love and that you're passionate about. And then you're right, you'll attract that clientele. So there's so many shiny objects in this industry and things you can do and bells and whistles and modalities. And this is 10,000, that's 40,000. I'm like, whoa, your hands are your ultimate modality, and
Yes.
figure out identifying what that is. So do you feel like because of your personal experience with acne, that's why you chose, there's a need in your marketplace for other people suffering with acne?
Yeah, I mean, I do also see a lot of rosacea clients as well. So I normally tend to kind of bracket myself under inflammatory conditions.
Yeah.
And I would definitely say a good turning point for me was when I used to go and get skin treatments, and it would maybe be from like a spa. You know how you were saying there, you sometimes go into a building, there's like multiple estheticians and it's like a day spa. I remember going into one of those, and I came out and she said, "Oh, you can buy all the products I've used on you today." I said, "Right, well, are they going to be suitable for me? Because they're typically not normally things I put on my skin." And it just didn't. We weren't getting anywhere. There was no solution to move forward. It just
Yeah.
wasn't going to do anything for me. So I definitely think niching down allows you to understand your clientele. And the problem is, if you speak to too many people at a time, you have no audience because you're speaking to those people. Then you speak. There's no consistency. There must be a consistent audience around you, um, in order to have repeat business. And you must be able to deliver for your clients. If you can't deliver and you can't understand fully what their needs are, then you can't expect to be full. That's just the way it is. You have to provide. You're paying for a service. You have to give them a service.
I love it. You're literally speaking my love language right now because I preach it all the time, but it's one thing for me to say it, it's another thing for you to say it and for people to hear it in a different way. So for the estheticians that are listening right now, if you're thinking about, as we're moving through these weird economic global moments and all things happening in the world, when you look at your books and you see that client and you light up about that client, or you look at that service, you go, oh, I have to do that again. Like, okay, I really don't want to be a Brazilian waxer. Do I have to do that again? But then you like light up around lashes or facials or acne or something. That's where you should start investing your energy, because you're going to be successful if you follow something that you're passionate with, and it just flows, it goes with it. So that the other thing that I think, pearl of wisdom, that you just dropped there was the social media, all the free training and free things that are available to you. I always say that it doesn't even take 30 seconds, but I say we're 30 seconds away from making a new life choice decision with a Google search. So if you go on YouTube and you're like, I was watching some social media stuff last night on YouTube. If you want to figure out a way or a formula for what your videos need to look like or what software people are using, it doesn't have to be, it's getting easier and easier now, even with AI stuff to help with captions and like what you want your video to look like. But it doesn't have to cost you money. It's just an investment in your time. It's saying, I want to learn something about this. And sometimes I just need a pep talk. And I'm like, let's go watch a Mel Robbins podcast or just anything to give me a little like boost from an entrepreneurial standpoint. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just your time and focusing a little bit. I know you can get distracted on shiny objects, but going and actually doing a search that is dedicated to what you're trying to accomplish for your business specifically, you can do it very cost effective.
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen myself go into the Apple shop with my phone and say, "You need this is what I need for a living. Do these settings so they're the best settings that I need on my iPhone." Do not be afraid to ask anything or put yourself out there. The worst someone's going to say is no. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. And is
Yeah.
that so bad? No. So just do
No,
what we need to do.
I love it. So tell me where did you learn? How did you hear? What was your first exposure to Wish?
So, I went down to London, and I was at a aesthetic medicine event, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, and I was constantly looking for a brand that would align more with Acne, because I feel at the moment a lot of the brands out there, not forget Acne, but don't really find it as a true importance. I think there's loads that are like dedicated to dry skin, aging skin, that sort of thing. Because the anti-aging market is obviously crazy and worth so much money, that acne kind of gets forgotten about. So it was actually another clinic, and I'm going to kick myself because I can't remember her name, and I'd love to shout her out. That I spoke to, and I obviously knew of a bigger one that was in the US, and I said, I can't get that in the UK, so what do you recommend? She said, there's this company called Wish, and I think they're going to be like in the bigger space. So why don't you just get in touch? And that's honestly, it was just from another esthetician being kind to me. Could see obviously I was struggling with my skin. And she said, get in touch. They'll be there the next thing. Like go for it. So I did. And that was kind of where it started. Which is nice of her. I really appreciated it.
I love that. I mean, one of the things that's beautiful, you guys, too, about owning in business, being an entrepreneur in this space is we've spent no money on advertising. All of our growth has been organic. It's through estheticians telling other estheticians, clients seeing an esthetician's photos, before and after photos. I want this. What do you offer? The training and the specialization in something is huge. Yes, the industry is full of anti-aging. We're always going to have that aspect of aesthetics, but the opportunity, just the amount of people that are struggling with acne that have already been through the medical journey of not getting their skin clear. I'm in these groups on Facebook, Hannah, that are people that are talking. They're just basically, they still have long-term symptoms from medication they took as teenagers or 10, 15 years ago. And I don't know how it is in the UK, but when you get a prescription in the US, they send you with this giant pamphlet essentially that are all the potential side effects of the medication. And nobody takes the time, except for me, because I'm a nerd and I'm like, all right, I want to read and understand what's happening here. No one really takes the time to understand that it's a psychology, there's a term for this, but the belief is that could never happen to me. This will never happen to me. Oh, it's a potential side effect, but that could never happen to me until it does. And Crohn's disease, people's hair falling out, depression, a lot of moms reporting that their kids are acting weird. I have a client right now we're helping in Georgia. She's actually in aesthetic school. She's being Sedesco trained right now, which is super awesome. She broke her back as a teenager. She actually fell off a tractor. It's kind of a page. I hope you don't mind me telling your story. She fell off a tractor and she broke her back. And she was taking Accutane for acne. And she said, David, the pain was so intense. The Accutane made it worse. I could not take it anymore. And I was like, well, it's probably a blessing in disguise. So we're like working with her to get her skin clear. But I just think that it's very interesting that the number one skin condition, and yet even in the best programs in the US, so that where you can get a master aesthetics license, which means you really learn more about chemical exfoliation and can do like medium depth peels, there still is not a in-depth focus on acne. It's covered. They understand it's a skin disease, but most programs in the US right now, like, oh no, if they're and again, this is perception, but if it's a grade 2 or higher, you should send them to a dermatologist. And I'm like, oh, it kills me because obviously, as you've seen, we can treat a lot of different acne. I believe that 90% of the cases you can go to an esthetician and get better results than what you're going to get on a 6-week prescription.
Absolutely. I've had it with clients. Where they've, kind of came in and they've been unsure what route to go down, and they've decided to go with the medical one. And then I've seen them again, and they say, "Well, it's because it's free, obviously, but it was, a bit of a waste of time for them, and essentially has contributed more to the problem sometimes because the microbiome's gone because of all the antibiotics, and we've gone backwards, which is fine. People are totally fine to make their own decision. But you're right. Nobody reads the pamphlet. I don't even read the pamphlet, and I'm a skin specialist. I mean, for skin medication, probably would, but nobody reads it, which is crazy, really, when you think about it.
There's a lot of, well, I'm sure you're seeing in the news with what's going on in the US with the FDA and all the shuffling of people in the government and who's responsible for what and drugs and food and our food pyramid. And like, there's so many things that we're basically, you're kind of left up to your own devices to figure out what is the best thing for my personal body, which requires a lot of research. So you've heard me say one size fits one. I believe that with acne, with your diet, there's no, and everybody's not going to do great on keto. Everyone's not going to do great on like a high fruit or high vegetarian vegan diet. Like it's not for everybody. It's for you to go and decide, get the education, understand what's going to be best for my body, my genetics, my personal, what does my microbiome need versus somebody else's. And we want to push everybody into like these categories of like, you have this issue, you take this drug. We're all different body sizes, types, sexes, ages, different exposures. There's no two people on the planet that have the same microbiome internally or topically. It is unique 100% to you. And the medications are kind of like one size fits all. We're going to give it, and it's sort of a, we're going to try this on you. If that doesn't work, well, then we're going to try this on you. Well, that doesn't, we're going to try it. And unfortunately, you're the human guinea pig going through the process where you're really disrupting your gut microbiome with antibiotics. You're really disrupting your topical microbiome that's keeping your skin healthy and helping it heal from acne. And it's just it's an awareness because we literally are left to our own devices to figure it out. I believe that the more that we talk about it as Wish and the more that estheticians become aware, I see, I think you're in some of the groups that we're into. I will see somebody post about acne and then I will watch the sound off of 100+ comments with the advices all over the board. They should be using beef tallow. Oh my gosh, they need this. And I'm like, beef tallow. And I look at it and I go, this just tells me that there is such a need for education because there will be a few people that have had more education in acne that understand and actually give really good advice. But normally the esthetician that's posting a picture and saying, what is this? Can you help me? I always have 50 more questions. First of all, what's the age of the client? What are they currently doing? Are they on medications? Have they ever been treated for acne? All the things, but people just start throwing out all this stuff. And I'm like, this tells you that there's more of a need for education.
Yeah, I think there was a really good I can't remember which dermatologist did a video on it, but she was basically discussing that obviously if you have a car problem, you go to a mechanic. If you go to this, if teeth problem, you go to the
Yes.
dentist, and that sort of thing. But when I see those photos, it's great that person's gone to the esthetician to get help because they've gone to the right space. However, when they blast those photos off in those groups, it's a little bit like taking a picture of some water in your kitchen and asking where the pipe's leaking. We don't know. We have to assess absolutely everything.
Yeah.
It's true though, isn't it? That's what it's like.
Yeah.
And well, I don't know. I don't know what their diet's like, what their history's like, what their hormones are. Like, have they just came off contraception? Like, how does we need to know all of this stuff before we even decide what's causing the acne and what they could potentially try. I don't know where this one size fits all comes from because I know myself that there's even fluctuations with the hypersensitivity to food. So, for example, for me, I know if I eat ice cream, I am 100% going to break out after. Just the way I am. I don't know why. It's obviously dairy, but hypersensitive to dairy. Whereas I have some clients who are really acne prone, but it doesn't. It can cause some inflammation for them, but it's not as anywhere near as hypersensitive as I am. So yeah, I don't know where this one size fits all comes from.
Yes, it's true. It is very true. The food triggers the saying that, the skin is a two-sided organ. And yes, we can treat you topically. We can do all these things and use your home care. If you're willing to adjust your diet, understanding that there's some triggers are going to be different for each person. We have some common triggers that are kind of like the top of the list. If we ever have a client that is really struggling or they're slow to clearing, we will have them do a food journal and just write down their foods that they're eating so we can just look back and say, oh, yeah, you know what? I had sushi. And about 3 days later, I was feeling really inflamed and it just really exacerbated after I went to the gym. So we can just kind of plug and play a little bit with the solutions, but it is one size fits one. It's always going to be a very tailored approach. So let me ask you some questions about the ingredients. So obviously being acne focused, do you have some key ingredients in products that you believe have been transformative for the acne space? Do you have like some top ingredients that you love?
Yes. I absolutely love mandelic acid. I am obsessed with mandelic acid. I could honestly scream it from a rooftop because I feel like as soon as you get into acne, or even if you just type it on TikTok and search it, the first thing that will come up is salicylic, which is fine, brilliant. I'm so oily as a person. Salicylic is brilliant. I have got such sensitive skin that salicylic just doesn't work for me at all. And I remember having a client come in and she said, I know you're going to tell me to use salicylic acid. I was like, I'm not, because I can see how sensitive you are and how aggressive your skin is at the moment. Like at the moment, we need to calm it down, but eventually it's going to be mandelic. So I love mandelic for the fact that the large molecular weight obviously penetrates slower. It allows exfoliation, but even on a really sensitive skin type, I love that. I also love azelaic acid. I find it quite dual treating in terms of inflammation and obviously acne. I also love it for my rosacea clients as well, especially those that suffer with I can't even say that word properly. Papulopustular rosacea. So I really love the azelaic acid as well. Niacinamide I like, but I think it's overused sometimes and over hyped, because I see a lot of people that come in clinic and have said, I've got niacinamide in my routine. I'm like, yeah, but if you've got that in a 10% solution mixed with whatever knows in, I mean, I'm not going to say the brand, but I feel like people know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to do anything for you. So it needs to be, I love niacinamide, but I think it also has its place in a routine. And I don't think it's not an ingredient alone to fight acne. So it's brilliant for redness, but so I'm kind of, I like it, but I don't want to hype it too much because I'm getting into the same thing that everybody else does. Yeah.
Right. Well, and niacinamide it's definitely a multitasker, but you touched on a couple great things. Mandelic acid, of course, azelaic acid, azelify, I mean, they're such powerhouse ingredients, but the thing to really understand, you guys listening, acne practitioners, is the total formulation matters. The percentages matter. So yes, you hear consumers, they understand that they're getting, or they've heard something about azelaic acid or niacinamide or BPO or whatever the thing is. And clients always think more is better. And, if you leave a client to their own devices, they'll go to the strongest percentages. I have acne and I just want to tackle it with a lot of aggression. You're like, okay, well, your skin's going to blow up. You're going to be like burning in like a week. Like this is not how your skin needs to heal. That's why you have the guidance of a professional. But the totality of a formulation, the other ingredients, the supportive ingredients, in addition to whatever the superstar active is, are equally as important as the active itself, to really make sure that their pH matters. Obviously, if things are effective. Is it stable? I don't know why it's giving me a thumbs up right now. It's random things that happen on the screen. I love that. So, Hannah, can you tell me a memorable story that you helped a client achieve significant improvement in their skin? We're talking a lot about. I was on a conference call yesterday in the morning with a group of people, and they were talking about the emotions of aesthetics and the emotional buy-in that we really garner with our clients, because we're in a very specific space where people are not necessarily, if you think about all the places in society where you're actually being touched by another human, it's very, very limited. So there's a very emotional relationship attachment in our industry, whether it's hairdressing or massage or aesthetics, people are being touched. Do you have a story or someone that stands out in your mind that you've helped with your skin, that you felt they're through their emotional transformation, or you've seen an emotional transformation from when they started?
Yeah. So I have a client, and she's actually a baker, and she struggled with acne her whole life. And I remember when she was introduced to me by one of my other clients. And initially, when the first client used to come to me and she used to say, I've got this girl, I'm friends with her, and she doesn't trust anybody when it comes to her skin, because she thinks it's all kind of a fad and that nothing can help her, and that that is it. She is just destined to have acne until she grows out of it, which I don't even know when that happens. So she was talking to me about it, and then she said, I'm going to book her in for a consultation for her birthday. And it was, the pressure was on, because I thought, well, she already doesn't trust me before she even walked in. And it's such a hard conversation when you know someone is already there. And I've been there myself, where you go into a situation where you think, I don't know if I trust you, and are you really capable of helping me? I'm not sure. So it was quite a sensitive conversation. And I remember in clinic, and it's obviously business rule 101, which my dad will be not impressed. Don't give anything away for free. But I said,
Yeah.
he's going to be very annoyed about this when he hears this. I'm going to do this one treatment for you one time. Now, one time, as we all know, is not going to give you miracles, but I just want to show you, I know what I'm doing, I know what's going to happen, and I want you to just feel at ease. And this was just for a facial. This was just to kind of get to know her skin a little bit better, and what her skin needed. And she was terrified, absolutely terrified. I got a text 2 weeks later, and she said, I want to start this journey. I'm committed. She was actually going to travel to London for a phenol peel. That's what she was originally going to do. She said, but I'm going to try this first before I go down that route, because it is obviously quite extreme. So I got her in, and we've done a couple of chemical peels, full routine. We've actually worked our way up to the 8% mandelic, with the phytoactive serum on the evening, which I don't think that product gets enough credit. I absolutely love that product, by the way.
Yes.
My husband loved it as well. And I think it was 12 weeks, so 3 months transformation. And she literally, bless her, she shouts up about the rooftops for me. She's constantly posting on social media like, look at my skin today. This is because I went to see Hannah one time. And it really made me feel like so heartwarming. And on her last appointment, I actually seen her, I think 4 weeks ago now, on her last appointment, she broke down, and I was like, is everything okay? And she was like, I feel like I've been so hard with you, and it's finally just clicked that this has completely changed my confidence. And it really is. And I know that sounds cheesy, it sounds just a bit cheesy really, but it does really impact somebody's life, because it's you wear your skin every day. So for someone like her that struggled for years upon years upon years, and seen people upon people, and spent thousands of pounds, it is a lot to ask someone to trust you. So I would say that definitely sticks out for me, because it wasn't just about fixing the acne for her, it was about breaking down the walls as well. She had quite a barrier up when it comes to trust with estheticians. So I was quite happy with that, because I managed to change her narrative on that professionals do know what they're doing. And yeah, it's a service. You're paying for me, but I'm going to deliver what you're paying for. So trust is the best thing.
I love all of those things. So the emotional, this is another part of as we get more in depth with Wish World, and I keep changing the course, and I want to update all these. I'm like, could just never happen fast enough for me. But the emotional toll. So there's published. So you guys want to nerd out on something, go and look for articles about the emotional toll of acne. Do a Google search. There's actually studies about people, just their personality. So depression, obviously being a component of that, not going out on dates, not being as interactive with other human beings, being paid lower wages in their profession. There's just a whole host of things that people don't even, it's just not even, you're not making connecting the dots. But we're wired as human beings when we see somebody else just through our DNA. So if you take it down to the very basic level, you make an assessment of somebody's health based off of their skin. How do they look? And you're not even thinking about it. The way that we're wired is having a response to how somebody looks, and their skin is the number one indicator of like their health. And people feel shame about their acne. So it's just a consideration when you bring somebody in, you're building trust, you're building a relationship, and understanding that they probably have been either embarrassed. So this is the other thing. You can't be walking in the grocery store. You see somebody with acne, you want to run up to them and you're like, oh my gosh, I can help you. And they're like, horrified, like, oh my gosh. And I'm like the crazy person at a restaurant where I hear the people talking and I saw the person with acne, obviously. And I'm like, just waiting so I can inject myself in the conversation so I can give somebody my card and like, let me refer you. But I don't do it obnoxious. I just wait for the opportunity. It's just different. But understanding that there is a strong emotional component to acne, it's a big deal. I've had practitioners who've had their clients come in and they just cried for like 30 minutes. And then they're like, David, I don't think I'm set up to really deal with this because the practitioner was starting to panic because they were running out of time to actually do a treatment before their next client came in. But they didn't want to interrupt the client crying because she was having like a crisis moment about her skin. So she's like, I was just trying to manage her emotions. And then my next client was coming. I'm like, I know it's a lot, but it is something again that you learn as a skill to like really be empathetic towards your clients with where they're at and the
Yeah.
experience that they've had. So you built trust with this client, obviously, and you're like, let's just start working on you so you can build that rapport and relationship. And then she becomes like your walking, talking billboard.
Oh, she's absolutely. She could probably. She said to me, "If you get merch, you let me know because I will wear the merch." I'm like, you don't need to wear any merchandise for me. But yeah, I think what you just said there is so important as well because people are really ashamed. And I remember when I was younger, I think I was about 18, and I went to the gym and there was a hot tub, and I'll never ever forget it. And I remember sitting in the hot tub, and this woman, she must have been in maybe her 50s with a friend who was also in the hot tub, and she just said, does your skin always look like that? And I was like, yeah. And then she said, that's such a shame that you have acne. What a shame for you. And I thought, why would you say that? Like,
Wow.
that's such an odd misconception that, when someone does the typical, why don't you just wash your face? I'm like, thanks for that. Do you know, that's totally good point. I don't know why I didn't think of that. So I think there is a shame, but it doesn't help that those people just come out with this, and you do have to, if without the pun, you do have to have thick skin because it hurts, So when it comes to being ashamed about it, I understand why, because people do say people can be mean. So yeah, it is a hard one. The emotional impact is really hard, really hard.
I think most most clients have an experience just like that, just like what you just said, that it sticks in your mind as it's like a negative thing. Like, I can't believe she just said that to me. She's probably not intending to be rude, but it's coming across as like, I can't believe she just said that to me. And our clients they are inundated with this. So when you're doing your consultation, you're asking questions, this is your rapport building, your opportunity to present yourself. I'm here to help you. That's what I'm here. Yes, I'm being paid. This is my profession, but I'm here to help you. And we're going to work together and we're going to create solutions for your skin so that because you don't have to have acne. You don't have to live like this. You don't have to go through life feeling like there's something wrong with you, or there's just a lot of shame in it. And we got to talk more about the emotions of it because they're a big deal. So Hannah, let's talk about so I love we all have access to information, obviously, with our phones and the internet and all the things, but where do you personally stay updated on trends, techniques, products? Do you have a go-to place that you're going for information to learn about things?
So I'm quite picky. So I like, Caroline Hirons obviously has her books, which I've read. Absolutely love those. So I would
I think I
highly
have them
recommend
in my
these.
office somewhere, actually. I
Um,
have the pink one and the yellow one.
um, I can definitely say what I wouldn't do. And I'm definitely not one for the short, TikTok. Hi, I'm a board certified dermatologist. This is what I think. I think people get really caught up on those. I feel like I'm hitting out there, but I'm sick of them.
Yes.
um, so that's definitely where I wouldn't go, is social media, because a lot of information is recycled and it's just Chinese whispers, so that someone could have said one thing and by the time it gets to the 10th person that's posted it's completely different. So focus on more, I would say, books, successful dermatologists. If you would bring out a book, that would be brilliant. I would read it.
I love it. It's in the wheelhouse, but it's sorry, I'll go off on a tangent. So yeah, so you are, I love that the being picky and not, so estheticians, social media is a real thing and we're all exposed to things. And believe it or not, whether you're thinking about it in real time, it is influencing your opinions about things. Even if you're just scrolling through TikTok and things, you're like getting 10, 15 seconds of a dermatologist talking about something. There's something called authority bias in the science world where if somebody shows up in your feed and they've got their physician coat on with their MD credentials on there, we immediately give them more credit for whatever they're talking about. And it's authority bias. So we're like, oh, well, that person obviously knows what they're doing because they have a lab coat on. And, those of us that actually take the time to do the research and actually look into things, there are things that doctors say that are completely wrong. And just because somebody is on social, remember, there's nobody policing the wild, wild west of social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. It doesn't matter. There's the FDA in the US is not coming in, the FTC, the Trade Commission, and looking at the communication going, that's actually false. What they're stating is their opinion, their
Yeah.
perception, whatever. If they read this is the other thing that's kind of been rampant about sunscreens and physical, chemical, and just all the things that happen. People will go and they'll start reading a study. And studies, I get it, you guys, they can be 30, 40, 50, 80 pages long. But they'll read one sentence of the study, pull it out as gospel, start spouting it off on social media. And you're like, you didn't read the rest of the study. Like, this is just one component of the study looking at something that could be negatively perceived, but it's not the totality of the study. It's one piece of the study. And I start getting crazy and I'm like, I could spend so much of my day just going into social media and saying, that's actually not false. Look at this article. Oh, that's actually not true. Look at this art, to do your own research. Estheticians, the community essentially needs to learn the art of research and having reference points, because the other thing I follow, if you guys haven't looked at, her name is Lab Muffin on YouTube. She's got an Instagram account. Her name's Michelle. She went to the same school that I went to for cosmetic chemistry. And she is a really good talking about, even if something is peer reviewed. I even went into it thinking, when you've got peer reviewed, you've got people that are essentially agreeing with each other about data. It's usually maybe a little conflicting, but there's usually people agreeing on something and they're presenting something as peer reviewed data. And you're like, oh, this is the gospel. And the reality is, if you start doing a little bit more research, you get yourself educated over a topic and you can find the exact topic and exact polar opposite conflicting ideas. And this is where the art of being educated comes into the space, because you touching somebody's skin every day, understanding how an ingredient interacts with somebody's skin, you are the expert. And it doesn't matter what this person is saying. In real life, you're seeing this person's skin, you're seeing how ingredients interact with their skin. Despite what these people are saying about the ingredient, you become the expert in the space because you're actually doing it. So I get it. We need physicians, right? I'm not saying we don't need physicians. We need them. The social media physicians, we also have to remember social media is, people are looking for views and more engagement, and they're selling something and they want more advertising. It's another job. And so you just take it with I'm glad that you said that. Because it's true. It's completely true. You can get lost in a shiny object syndrome world, especially on short form video. I find most estheticians actually that they love listening to this with whatever a lot of people listen to it on Spotify. And you guys, thank you for listening. If you are listening, I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. But just the estheticians like long form where they can learn something. This isn't a 15-second, just, we're actually learning something. So I love it. Are there any DIY skincare practices or at home treatments that you have seen with your clients that you're like, stop doing that?
Yeah.
The client has come in and you're like, what are you doing?
Yes. I've got to say 90% of my clients are pretty good. They will, if they even see anything on social media, they'll send me to it and think, what do you think of this? I actually did a post recently on things that you may see on social media that you should definitely not do. beef tallow hasn't really hit us much yet. I think that's more of a US thing, and I'm thankful for that. Because I don't know where this has come from, but we did have one a while back about creating your own sunscreen, which is crazy.
Crazy.
It's not. Yeah, it's one of the most important parts of your entire routine. But if not the most important, it's not one I would definitely be brewing up in the kitchen. So yeah, making their own sunscreen because they were obviously scared of potential carcinogenic properties that are in chemical sunscreens, which is a really fast-growing problem. Caroline Hirons actually did a video on that, which was absolutely excellent for anybody watching. That was a brilliant video, explaining the impact of this and what it could essentially do. I think it was some benzene in sunscreen.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I would say that one's the thing. But I think going back to kind of what you said earlier about people getting caught up on things, one thing I have noticed in the industry is people are getting far too caught up on the word glowy. I find all day, I hear that all day in clinic, just make me glowy. It's like, well, I can, but it's only going to last like an hour. I want you to have healthy skin. And I'm not doing it. I'm not chucking oil on you. I'm just not doing it. Sorry. So I feel like at the moment that would be the next one is going to be the one products that are going to give everybody the glow. That's what will be the next at home, like conjunction, whatever they mix up in the kitchen, will be to do with glowing.
So I have two things to comment on because the glow thing is an interesting thing because it's lipids on the skin that are reflecting light. That's where you're getting the glow, or you're getting from some sort of a makeup or a mineral reflection thing, which is a whole nother thing. But usually people with acne, I'm like, you have to be very precise about the products you're putting on the skin, because if you're looking for that extra glow, it's usually more an oil-based or lipid-based product that's reflecting light, so you're getting that glow. It might not be the best thing for your acne-prone skin at that stage. So just be aware of that. I mean, it's a thing. I get it. It's a trend, like all things. We want to look healthy and glowy. And back in the day, like, so this is before you, right? Back in the 90s, where everything was matte. So like powders, the skin was just matte, powder, and everybody's just walking around matte face. And then we go through these trends where no, skin is actually not supposed to be matte. It's healthy. It's supposed to glow. Like when you have lipids in your skin, you're healthy and it's reflecting all the things, which is, I get it. It's just trends. We have to have them. This keeps everything moving. But the sunscreen thing and the idea that you can make sunscreen. So I do yoga. I haven't been in, like, I'm like behind in my yoga practice and I need to get back into it because we're coming into summer. But like I'll hear one of our yoga instructors like, oh, I just mixed these raspberries and like these antioxidants. I made my own sunscreen. And I'm like, you saw that in a video on YouTube, probably somebody mixing up their own sunscreens. And what people don't understand about sunscreens from a chemistry perspective is they're usually, when you're creating a sunscreen, it is formulated in a high shear environment, meaning that the ingredients are being sheared into the total formulation for even distribution of whatever the sunscreen agent is, whether that's physical, inorganic, organic, chemical sunscreen. They're sheared into the formulation for even distribution. So you're at home mixing something in your bowl in your kitchen.
Yeah.
And then also you're not preserving it. And I'm like, it's just like food, you guys, things will grow mold. There's bacteria. Like it's just not the right message. And I get it. I understand I have read the studies in depth on all chemical filter. Like I understand why there's concern about certain things. I also understand how long they've been on the market. And you got to look at is a juice worth the squeeze sort of thing. Like, am I not going to use sunscreen because of this potential situation and expose myself to all these other things, and while they sort this out? Or they've been on the market for since World War II. Like, I went back to the origination of sunscreen. It's been around for a long time. So Hannah, we're based in Palm Springs, so it's very sunny here, but can you explain the importance of, you guys have different sunscreen filters in the UK, it's been this constant thing in the US because Australia and the United States have pretty stringent laws around sunscreen and how it gets tested. but the UK, other parts of the world have adopted. I know we've got Korean sunscreens coming into the US. And I'm like, you guys, if you're using a Korean sunscreen and it has an SPF factor on it, if it doesn't contain certain ingredients that are recognized by the FDA, it's not legally supposed to be sold in the US as an SPF. It's just the more you know. But how do you teach your clients about the importance of sun protection, especially when they're obviously going through acne treatment?
So I would definitely say this is the hardest part of my job, which is crazy. But if you said to somebody, if you said how I explain clients to somebody, who say, if I'm gonna give you a product and it's gonna preserve the aging process, it's gonna protect you essentially and give you more protection towards skin cancers and things like that. And this product, the only thing that's going to happen is it's going to stop you getting a tan. Could you live with that for the 90% of aging? And they go, yeah, of course, like that's brilliant. Like, what is this product? I'm like, it's SPF. And as soon as you say SPF, they turn off. They're like, oh, what? I'm like, yeah, that's the product. So,
Yes.
that's the best way to explain it to them is get them to buy it before you even explain it. It doesn't have to be from you, as long as they buy into the fact they need sunscreen.
Yes.
But my mum, oh, she'll be listening to this knowing I'm calling her out. Because she's of that generation where a bit of sun is good for you, is really, really good for you. So she's a
Yeah.
rosacea sufferer. And I would only say in the last 6 months, I've managed to get her to religiously wear SPF every single day. And it's been a real challenge because she herself has seen the videos, and a lot of the videos come from across the pond. They do come from America, where the cancer and things. Because I feel like the really big buzzword in the US is
Yes.
cancer. So she sees the videos and she says, "I'm not putting that on. It's going to cause cancer." I'm like,
You're like, oh.
"What? Where are you getting this from?" And she's like, "Look at this video." I'm like, "Well, for starters, it's in the US, so it's a completely different filter. It's a completely different product."
Yep.
And at the same time, you're protecting yourself against one of the UK's biggest killers, which is melanoma. So just to say that does not mean you're not going to get melanoma if you wear sunscreen, by the way. I don't want to get myself in some form of lawsuit there. But yeah, you're protecting yourself against one of the biggest killers in the UK. So I think there's that to it as well. I think the best way to deal with acne clients when it comes to wearing sunscreen is give them an alternative to being tanned. So there's a
Yes.
couple of tanning mists that I recommend in clinic. I actually have a sheet in clinic which I find really helpful, so just sharing that with people. I have a full sheet that I give my acne clients, which is, if you want to be tanned, this is this. If you want to do this, take this supplement. If you want a zinc supplement,
Yes.
take this one. So you should
Yes.
really, I give a print out to people. So just as a word of advice, a lot of people take it away, read it, and they enjoy it. They feel like they've got a lot of information out of the appointment. And on there is 2 different tanning mists for acne-safe clients that are not going to cause any inflammation. Non-comedogenic, which I know isn't the be-all and end-all of everything, but helpful. Yeah. But there's 2 companies in the UK that specialise in providing tanning products for acne people, acne sufferers. One thing I do definitely say is I don't like tanning drops because I feel like they alter the formula of the moisturisers. So I always say stay away from those because you're literally putting something in the moisturiser that is not supposed to be in there.
Yeah.
So I think the alternative is explain to them that it doesn't mean they have to be pale. I love a tan. I get spray tan every 2 weeks. I love a tan. But I wear SPF 50 every morning before I've even brushed my teeth. So yeah, it's about getting that across to them.
It's a big deal. The more that we understand the what UV. So yes, your mom, I get it. I probably relate to your mom about having like the sun is healthy and oh my gosh, we can have like we need vitamin D and like I get all those things. I'm like, yes, a little bit of sun exposure. Yes, I will definitely SPF your face, you guys. When you look at how collagen degradation happens from UV exposure, it probably you said it right, 90% of the aging in the skin UV induced. So of course, yes, it's usually a sensorial thing about acne and like, oh, I can't be too greasy and like I don't want it to feel heavy. But it is definitely when you're using acne actives and you've got hydroxy acids in your routine, you want to protect your results. And so it seems like a no-brainer, but you're right. I love how you led into that with talking about all the benefits and all the things that it does before you're actually even saying that it's an SPF. Huge.
Yeah.
So you talked a little bit about recommending supplements. How do you approach, Hannah, we have this thing in the US where people are like, we're not nutritionists and we can't do this. I'm like, you guys, you're not giving anybody medical advice. Everyone has access to supplements. You're just making recommendations for things that you know will help with healthy skin. You're not over here telling them they have to, or their client ultimately gets to decide what they want. But how do you address diet with your acne clients?
So when they come in for the consultation, the first thing I ask is, do you take any supplements? If so, which ones? And do you take any protein powders, creatine or whey protein? What I tend to work off is to say, if you were to take those supplements out, are you going to become unhealthy? Are they essential to your diet? What would be the impact? And 9 times out of 10 people say, well, I've seen them on social media, so that's why I take them. I don't take them for any good reason. So normally my route before I actually suggest supplements is to take everything out first to then see what they actually need, because a lot of people take crazy supplements. Like I've got clients that come in and they take 10 pills before they even eat their breakfast. Like, why don't you just eat a yogurt instead of taking the 10 probiotics? Why don't you just eat a yogurt?
Yes. Right.
So,
right.
yeah, so I always tend to start as a starting point of, right, bring everything out, and then skincare routine. We do no treatments until you've had a full routine, you've had a bit of time to settle in, and I'll see you again soon. If I notice that somebody struggles with chronic inflammation in the body, so just not in the skin, like for example, my sister, she has rheumatoid arthritis and she's in her 20s. She struggles with chronic inflammation and things like that. So she takes constant things that are designed to like lower that down. She takes turmeric, things like that to keep the inflammation down. I would suggest that, but I think it's also knowing the limits. So there is a couple of clients that come in and say, well, do you think, sorry, I'm going around in circles here. The main point I want to make is I've got a lot of clients that have stress disorders, so anxiety, depression, as we all have our mental health struggles.
Yep. Human beings.
Sorry. What did you say?
I said, no, we're just all human beings.
Yeah, we're all human beings. So it's part of being human. So I see a lot of them clients that go on to ashwagandha, which is obviously the natural supplement to help that. But I have read a study recently where it is correlated with increase in testosterone activity, androgen activity in the body. So where was I going with that?
Just client supplements, understanding so you're making a good assessment. You brought some really good tips that people are coming in, they're taking 10 supplements. And I think your approach of like dialing it back a little bit and saying, let's just take this from a place. You could have your yogurt if you're doing a bunch of probiotics and you're not like having a dairy moment. Like, of course, yes, eat the yogurt, like eat the real foods. Like we forget, I think, Hannah, what we've lost sight of is that supplements are derived from food. They're blends of herbs and plants and things. And like when we look at even medications, so like I told this story in the podcast before, but my business partner's father was talking about, we were at Whole Foods and I was getting a green juice and I was like, do you want some? It's like, no, I can't have that. It'll affect my blood pressure medicine. And I was like, what do you think your blood pressure medicine is actually doing? Part of one of the recommendations from this medication is to not eat leafy green vegetables, kale, spinach, things, because it naturally lowers your blood pressure. And in conjunction with the medication, your blood pressure will be too low. And I was like, how about they recommend that you eat more of those things so that you don't have to take the medication?
That is so backwards. I hear stuff like that all the time. Do you know, and again, family, I'm calling out all my family here, but a lot of, even my sister, she's like, oh, I really need some antioxidants. I'm like, she's like, so I've taken a vitamin C supplement, and I'm like, why don't you just eat an orange and then see if it's enough? And then, like, why don't you eat more fruit and then we'll be fine. Have some raspberries.
Yes. Yes.
But it's definitely too many stews, too many cooks spoil a stew. That's just the way it is. There's 20 supplements on the list and nobody knows which one's working. And if you just have a healthy, balanced diet, we can dial in what we need to dial in. But for now, let's just take a step back and review it. It's also a lot of money. People are spending fortune on supplements and they don't know what it's doing. So
I know, because they saw it on TikTok.
basically, yeah, someone across the pond told me to take. I don't know. I'm saying across the pond as if it's just you guys, but it's not. But someone in New Zealand told me to take ashwagandha tomorrow, so I'm going to do it. It's like, right.
Because they
How's
look
that
so
work out?
healthy and beautiful. I know, I get it. I love it. I could talk to you for hours, Hannah, because I love it. I love your personality. You're doing such a great job with Wish. Like you're literally, it's my dream for every client that goes through the training, understands how to use the products correctly, and just can scale their business. Like I love all of that. I love it. I appreciate you. Looking ahead, so as we round this down, as you're seeing now, having some years of exposure, owning your own clinic, what do you see changing? What developments do you see happening in the field of aesthetics? Do you see anything bubbling up that you see as a future trend right now, based off what you've been exposed to?
I see a lot about exosomes. I think exosomes are coming in. I was at a talk with Dermalogica in Liverpool a couple of weeks ago about exosomes. Um, I'm not sure on them yet. I don't know if I'm sold yet. I think it's going to be pretty hard to mitigate because obviously human exosomes would be the top tier, which is obviously illegal. Um, so plants exosomes, I know that a lot of dermatologists question them and their effectiveness. And then I suppose animal ones is about purification. So, and where these animals are farmed and how that works. So I think exosomes is going to be the next one, and I think it potentially could be very productive for acne scarring. I'm not sure how much it would do for actual active acne, but scarring obviously is also a big issue. So I would say that's the next upcoming trend that's going to come out for estheticians.
We're going to talk about in our Wish Pro webinar coming up on the 19th. We're going to talk about exosomes because I incorporated them into micro and macro moisture. They are apple derived and they help actually. So there's a lot of before I'll use an ingredient, Hannah, I will go and research to make sure that there is actually real data efficacy. There's ingredients flying at me all the time. I have like raw material samples on my desk all the time with different things that people are trying, and I'll play around with them in formulation, but I won't put them into a formula until there's data to substantiate what it's doing. So what I found with the apple extract, we were already using apple extract in both the moisturizers, the exosome version. So you guys, it's plant derived. I'm not going to be using human or animal derived anything in Wish World. It's going to stay plant derived. Had a lot of good efficacy data around evening skin tone, just helping with pigmentation. So to keep the skin nice and even toned. And I was like, these are really good before and afters. They've got the right amount of people in their studies. We're going to actually look to incorporate this ingredient, less production run. I'm like, absolutely, we can do that. And people are like, David, you didn't tell us you're putting exosomes in the moisturizer. I'm like, it's not what you think. We were already using an apple-based product for those moisturizers. This is the exosomal version of it. And so I'm going to go through and explain some of the science. So I love that, Hannah. Look, we've talked for an hour and 15 minutes already because, of course, we're like on it, in it to win it. Tell everybody where they can find you, website, social media, all the fun things.
Yeah, so I am predominantly on Instagram, I would say is the platform that I normally post to. My Instagram handle is HN Skin Solutions. It's the same for Facebook. Website, although I'm not very good at keeping up to date, is www.hnskinsolutions.co.uk. I'm not sure how much you'll find on there. I'm not a web person. But yeah, that's where anybody can find me. And if anybody wants to reach out or is listening and has questions or is currently considering Wish and wants like my opinion from it as using it in practice in clinic, please reach out. I'd be totally happy to have a chat with you and explain how it's gone so far with the process, because even the learning process really is fantastic. I've got so much out of it already. I was laughing there when you were saying about my clinic, obviously how much I've done with Wish so far in such a short space of time. I was thinking, you must see my name, or that whoever works in the warehouse must see my name and think, goodness sake, because I literally order every week, but I'm so terrified to run out of stock. So
Yeah, you know what? It's okay. So I look at the manifest in the morning. So and I usually see there's the onslaught, like somebody gets super excited or they bring in a new esthetician. I watch the trends and I always make sure that they're being sustained, that their growth is sustained because that means things are working. And if something just went really like this and then just dropped off, I'd be like, okay, there's what's going on here. Like we need more education or something. But I love it. I'm never going to tell people you can't stop ordering. You're ordering too much. Of course, that's not why we're in business, but I appreciate it. And I think it's awesome. I'm so happy for you. And I think that there's just so much more good things to come for you and your business and Wish and all the fun things that can happen. So thank you for taking the time today.